so Lorin, who's just a rando off the street that I grabbed for this event, is here to have a great conversation. And I'm gonna leave it off to you. We got a fun giveaway, so stay excited for that. This little buffalo, which we do expect you to name by the end of the event.
Yeah, he has a name.
Oh, what's the name?
Well, you gotta read the book.
Well.
Jeez, Kat.
That's okay, yes. Okay, all right. All right, ready?
Sure, yeah.
All right, here's Lorin.
Let's roll. I don't think I've ever had a room full of people clap for me before. That was weird. Okay, so some of you know me. This is very cool. I love it. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, maybe. We'll see. And even if you know me very well, you probably don't know this. Stephen Graham Jones is my favorite author. I never talk about it, ever, on any platform. So, this is probably, according to Billy apparently, his best book yet. My favorite is still Slasher, but don't tell Stephen. I'm sure he can't hear me. So, with that, come talk about it. Best intro yet, right? Just here's this guy. This is his book. I don't know his list. Like the list of awards and stuff and things that he does is too long, so I wasn't even gonna attempt that. So that's what you get. So, Buffalo Hunter, I've read 3 times, which might be aggressive for pre-pub day, and it's a memoir. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've read it more than I have.
I think I have. I'm like asking him questions and he's like, I don't remember that. Okay, so I really do think this is a memoir because after you read it, I don't think anybody could write a better vampire. It's so personal. But why did you pick vampires this time? Was there like a trigger for that, or is it just on your list of like random monsters that you want to write a novel about?
It is on my list of monsters that I want to engage with in some way, but I knew I couldn't allow myself to write a vampire until I could do it in a way I could believe in, like intellectually, emotionally. I had to like strip the creature, the monster, the person down to something that made sense to me, which isn't to say other people's vampires don't make sense, but like, I don't know, when you read Tomb of Dracula, and Tomb of Dracula needs to get out of a hermetically sealed room and he will become mist and somehow get out anyways, even though he's not supposed to be able to. I think I'm not to be trusted with that kind of power, you know? And flying makes no sense to me. And charming is like story lubricant. It just makes everything too easy. And I think there should always be friction and pushback. And so I'm not saying other people can't do it wonderfully, they can, but I don't trust myself with that kind of, I don't know, license, I guess. I have to put like strict boundaries around myself and my creatures. And I finally, after teaching a graduate seminar on the vampire, I felt like I had a good enough handle on the vampire to do with it more or less what I had done with werewolves and mongrels, which is come up with a creature, an animal I could believe in, like biologically, culturally, but still they have to have teeth, they have to be killers. I mean, nothing against urban fantasy, but I'm probably not going to write urban fantasy. I'm going to write about people's throats getting pulled out.
You just didn't want to step on the Lesser Dead's toes, right?
Pretty much,
yeah.
No, Christopher Beeman's The Lesser Dead is such an amazing novel. I mean, what's amazing about The Lesser Dead is strip the vampires out, and it's an amazing novel still. You know, it's just, the novel just blows me away to no end. I don't know how he pulled that kind of trick off, and I don't know how his publisher let him pull that kind of trick off either. I'm quite jealous.
I mean, I think that's kind of true about this book, though. Like, Good Stab could have been not a vampire, and it still would be a great story. I don't think he would have survived half the things that happened to him, maybe.
He wouldn't.
But the characteristics, I'm not going to spoil any of them. But a lot of the things that make him so unique to me in this book are just perfect for the story and kind of like the background of what you're trying to get across, because I think you do this thing with monsters where you make them so human, and the story's never really about the werewolf or the vampire. It's about like something else, something deeper, something very personal that they go through. So did you, I want to point out the characteristic, but I think you get it. Did you craft those as you wrote? Because I know you kind of just wing it. Or did you have kind of a list that you worked from? Did things like pop up as you were writing that you were like, oh, this kind of fits?
You know, when I wrote Mongrels, I had a list of, when I do werewolves, they're going to be like this. And Mongrels was my third try to write a werewolf novel, too. The first 2 novels, I just spent 200, 300 pages looking at pretty werewolves, and that's not a story, you know? And so finally, that's where I finally figured out, oh, it's got to be about the story, not the creatures. The creatures plug into the story. But with vampires, yes, after teaching that graduate seminar, I did have a list, you know, no mist, and they can't transform into a wolf, just all this stuff. But then I sat down to write Buffalo Hunter, and I did it in like 10 weeks, and that was way too fast to ever look at my list. So I never looked at that list once. And so these characteristics did come up organically, but they function, to me anyways, in the story as governors or controls on the vampire. Because, like, you know, I just watched that film, Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Human. Yeah, I was going to add a lot of words. And it's beautiful. I love that movie. There's a point, probably about, I don't know, 12, 15 minutes from the end, where the consenting suicidal person says, we're vampires, we can do anything. And that's the terror of me. That's terrifying to me about this whole vampire story thing. I think vampirism should always be a curse. It should always be something you don't want. And the reason you don't want it is because you have to do terrible things in terrible ways. And I'm not talking about just your humanity, it conflicts with your humanity. I'm talking about just things that are terrible on any level, you know? I mean, a mouse doesn't eat another mouse's neck out, usually, you know, sometimes. I mean, when they're in a cage, I guess. But you know, I shouldn't have used mice, actually. I used to chase, when I was a kid, way out in the pastures, I had this one cat that hung around. It wasn't really my cat, but it was a cat that was in the area. And me and that cat would chase mice together in the pastures, and we'd catch them. And what I found with field mice is you can hold them up by the tail, and they go docile like a little punching bag. You don't want to punch them, but they're just hanging there like a Christmas.
It's not the intake of breath over there.
like a Christmas ornament. That's what they're like. And you can, and it's that kind of neat. You're like, wow, they just have some like reflex where they just hang there. But then if you have one in each hand, and you draw them close to each other, they freak out and try to kill each other, and they pee everywhere. And it's a weird thing. So if you're hanging mice on your Christmas tree, space them out.
Great tip for everyone. Okay, so you actually mentioned my next question was that you wrote this in 10 weeks, which is gross. I don't write books. I couldn't write anything in 10 weeks. It takes me 10 weeks to make a phone call. Like, I still haven't made my yearly physical appointment. How did you do that? And it's historical. So maybe you just read Fool's Crow and you like went from there, but how did that change your process?
You know, actually, I started writing it, and then I was like, I wonder what Good Stuff is going to sound like. I didn't know that was his name yet. I wonder what this vampire is going to sound like. And I looked at when he was probably born, and I realized he's going to sound just like Fast Horse and Fool's Crow. And so then I went and read Fool's Crow really fast. And Billy out there was helping me. He was sending me old newspaper stuff and reports. And another friend up in New York was sending me stuff too. And I was looking up what I could. And I have a lot of Blackfeet books at the house, of course. And I was looking at those. But yeah, I did write this quickly, but I write all my books quickly because I don't go slow. I guess that's basically it. You know, I don't really know how to go slow when I write a book. I'm so completely in that world that the only way out is to write my way out. And I want to get back to this real world so I can go see the new movie on Friday or something. You know, but when I'm locked in the middle of a novel, it's not a bad place to be, but it's a place to be where I lose the line between worlds. And that line is terrible to lose. It's much better to have that line between this is made up and this is not made up. And so the quicker I can get through a book, the quicker I can get back to the real world for a moment. Anyways.
That blows my mind. Was it always going to be epistolary? Because it's all written in journal entries of some kind or voice recordings in one of the cases.
It wasn't a conscious decision to make it epistolary. If I were strategic, I wouldn't do Teenage Slasher and Buffalo Hunter back to back because they're both epistolary. You know, I would try to space things out a little more. I can't put all my space operas like right in 3 years or something. You know? But I guess that was the mode I was in, and I think actually I was in that mode because maybe a year and a half earlier, I taught another grad seminar on found footage fiction, what I call found footage fiction, which is kind of autofiction-y, but really we were talking about the techniques that different novels use to convince you that they're real and not fake. And epistolary is one of those tricks, and there's all kinds of little techniques and tricks within epistolary. So that's just like, and that won't leave my head. So I think that's probably why it's epistolary, but no, I had no idea it was going to be epistolary. It would have been a lot easier to write if it was not epistolary, actually. But I did get to indulge Arthur Belcarn, the Lutheran pastor in 1912. I got to indulge his Victorian educated, kind of Baroque encrusted voice diction. And he's got this big education, but he's been isolated for a long time in the West, and it's allowed it to like grow in different ways. And so the words he uses are 80% right, but that means 20% wrong. And so you can generally get what he's saying, but you can't necessarily find it in the dictionary.
My brother-in-law does that. He's also going to love that I mentioned him on this. But also those Nabokov M dashes, they're so long in the book. I love them.
Oh, I'm so lucky. I'm so thrilled that Saga let me keep those M dashes. The whole time before I turned the book in, I was like saying stuff like, these M dashes are really important. We're going to really need these M dashes. And then the copy editor, some copy editor, they got into the text and they're like, this must be a mistake. And so they searched and global replaced all of them. And so I had to dig through the whole book and find every instance. Because there are a lot of M dashes that aren't long like that in this book.
Did they not see the count? The total count was in the hundreds?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. But to tell you the truth, I'm kind of thankful for that actually, because it made me pay attention to the micro stuff within the prose a lot more than I had been. And it also made me come up with a set or like a satellite of rules around each character for who got what punctuation and who used what coordinating conjunctions and all this stuff. And it allowed me to keep the sections distinct from each other.
I didn't even think about that because you're actually writing as they would write, which is very different.
Or writing as Goodstep would
speak.
speak. Yeah. So when you speak, you don't really get M dashes. I don't think. I can shape my mouth like a comma, like you lip sync.
I literally said that you verbalize commas to someone earlier today.
Yeah, but I don't know how to like shape my mouth like a colon or a semicolon or an M dash, and I could never do an M dash with my mouth. That's way too out there. But I guess I could do an exclamation point if I was like about to fall off a cliff or something. But I'm not loud. I can't like make my voice like that.
I don't think we need to test that today. Okay, so if you wrote this in December 2023. So you went from writing Tolly to Jade to Goodstep?
Yeah, I think so. I wonder if I probably wrote the script. Oh, I was writing a lot of Earth Dabbers at the time too.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That would probably tied it kind of well.
And I was also writing True Believers as well, another comic book I'm doing.
The man does not stop writing. Okay. But as far as those main characters that you spent a lot of time with, was that a difficult switch? Because they're all very different, and they do have a similarity. I think Tolly is a reluctant slasher, Jade is a reluctant final girl, and now we have Goodstep, who's a pretty reluctant vampire.
Yeah.
In most ways.
That's a good point. Somebody at one of these things a few years ago, they said, so all your characters are outsiders, and I thought about it, and I thought that's right. So I thought I was doing outsider fiction. Maybe I'm doing reluctant fiction now. I don't have any idea, But I guess all my space opera books are clumping up. I don't know. But it could be the case that maybe if I have a character who's too enthusiastic about what they're being assigned by the story to do, or they're assigned in some fashion to do, then the story risks becoming like Commando or something. Like somebody who's gung-ho to go do all this stuff. And that to me is not fun. It's more fun when there's an outer battle and an inner battle.
Yeah, I don't think that's very your style.
Yeah,
kill people, that's so cool. Maybe in some of the older ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're talking about slashers, I was talking about this yesterday with someone who just finished the book, and this one feels very violent, more violent even than the slashers, the trilogy or teenage slasher. And I don't know if that's a recency bias thing, or if it's because most of the violence in the book is happening to or caused by Goodstep, versus in the slashers it's this cast of a bunch of characters that you kind of know, but you're not super attached to. Is it more violent to you? Does it feel more violent, or is it just that I've read it 9 times this week?
Yeah, I do think it's more violent. And I think the reason it's more violent is because the Indian Lake trilogy and I Was a Teenage Slasher aren't, for me, wish fulfillment. But this novel is 80% wish fulfillment, because every time I read about the attempted wiping out of the buffalo, or watch a Ken Burns documentary on it, or whatever it is, I think, man, if I'd have been around back then, I would have had one job, and I'm
not reluctant, everyone. No reluctance whatsoever.
But I'm not around back then, so I have to assign Goodstab that job and let him do what I hope I would have done. You know, I probably would have got caught, like, just sneaking up to camp. You know, a dog would have chewed me up or something.
I don't know about that. Maybe if not, if you made your mouth look like an exclamation point or whatever. Would have scared him off real fast. Speaking of trilogies, you mostly write standalones. Are you planning, because Jade is very popular, I think. Anyone for that? Okay, yeah. Are you planning any more trilogies or series or sequels or anything?
No, I'm not.
Well, sorry, guys.
Not right now, but I didn't plan the Indian Lake trilogy either. I had no idea that was going to happen. So I don't really plan things. I just like get abducted into a closet and I'm forced to write a novel. And I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing. You know?
Your life is so weird. If you had to, if like your editor were like, you have to write a sequel to something that exists or a continuation, which book would it be? And you can't escape the closet till it's done.
Killer on the Road. Coming out.
Well, you
coming
can't
out.
he's just promoing the book that's coming out, you guys. Come on. It's literally, oh, I have it in the back room. But
No, you know, actually, when I sold Mongrels to whoever the people
William
who published
Morrow,
it, yeah, William Morrow. I didn't want to like bad talk them, but I guess now I'm bad talking them, right?
Sorry.
That book came out, and they said, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, "Well, books 2 and 3 of Mongrels." And they got back to me like that afternoon, and they said, "No, you're not going to be the werewolf guy. We want you to write something different." And so I wrote a big Texas serial killer novel that never got published, and I wrote a novel, a paleo anthropological thriller, which didn't get published. And then I broke up with them and came to Saga, and everything's good there, you know.
Thank goodness.
But maybe, I mean, I've still got Mongrels 2 and 3 in my head. You know, the question is, can I still enter that mind space that I was in back in 2014, I guess, when I wrote it?
Do you need me to like go to William Morrow and be like, give me the rights?
Yeah.
Because I will. He's like, yeah, I know. Okay, so this book opens, as you guys will find out, if you haven't read it yet, with Etsy, and she's kind of the rapper for the story, but
The WRAPPER.
no, she raps. Lil Etsy. Whose perspective did you actually start writing first? Did you start with her, or did you start with someone else?
I meant to start with Arthur. I sat down and I thought, oh, let's get this story started. And then Etsy just like jumped in and started saying stuff. And so, I don't know, I just had to write down what she was saying.
I can't imagine starting with Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it's too harsh of it's like less of a forced baptism, more of like you grab somebody and dunk their head in a horse trough, you know? So yeah, I think for me, Etsy is the place to start. It's not so much that we need an on-ramp to get to 1912. There are stories that start in 1912, but without Etsy, I think this story becomes isolated in the past, and it's something that happened then, and it has no potential to scare us, I feel like, anyways.
That's not bad. While we're talking about Etsy, because I was going to ask this anyway later, I've asked this before too, so sorry if you've heard this, but I think everybody should hear it at least once. So your female main characters, or just female characters in general, I think are so well written, and I am mean about that, so sorry to my male writers, but I have a hard time with male authors writing women, but I think yours are so good and so well done. There's like no trace of the male gaze, even if I look for it. And can you talk a little bit about how you achieve that?
I guess it's just the women in my life. You know, I've got a wife who will hit me upside the head if I mess up. I've got a mom who, she won't hit me upside the head for other stuff. But, and I've got 3 sisters and a daughter, you know, and so I've got all these women in my life that I'm able to kind of use as models, maybe. Like, I don't know, models is probably the wrong word, but I don't know, they just, it's not that they show me what it's like to be a woman. I don't think I can ever know that. I don't know. It's just somehow them in their life helps me, and I'm not really sure how.
I think it's because you pay attention to like them and their struggles and really listen. Personally, because I think there's no other way to know that unless you're really taking in the information that they're delivering to you.
Well, maybe I listen, but my wife says I'm not that good of a listener. like earlier this week, I was mailing out a Buffalo Hunter to one of my brothers who reads all my books, and she said, "Are you mailing to your other brother?" And I said, "No, he don't read books. He just reads truck magazines." And she said, "No, he needs something." And so I went to the hardware store and bought him this really cool screwdriver, and I came home and I said, look, we're gonna mail this to him, and she said, you do not understand anything.
Wait, is this the brother that started reading Growing Up Dead in Texas and then never said anything to you about it?
Yeah, I think it is.
I mean, yeah, okay. It might be fair to send him the screwdriver, but I appreciate Nancy.
And it's a really cool screwdriver. It like does everything. It's like the Swiss Army knife of screwdrivers. Like I have a real bad problem buying screwdrivers. I've got so many screwdrivers, but this at the moment is the best screwdriver I've ever had. I've got one for myself, of course.
I was gonna say, did you just keep his? You probably would like that better, but
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about buying one for like every part of my life. Like have one in my truck, in my garage, at my office, everywhere. I just,
like a pocket
Yeah,
screwdriver.
yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. That sounds really cool. It'll help you get out of the closet.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, stuck in there. I lost my train of thought completely. So, okay, let's go with my favorite quote in the book. Happens kind of early on. It's in quietness begins devotion, does it not? I just love that because for me, reading is generally very quiet unless you're doing an audiobook, but still, like, you're in a quiet environment. And that is how we all begin devotion to specific authors or works or genres or what have you. And so it was very personal to me. Were you thinking of anything in particular when you wrote that, or were you just in Arthur's head?
I was just on Arthur's head. Like I feel like I'm not very responsible for all the things he says. He's his own dude, you know, and he comes up with stuff like that, and I just feel like it comes through me. Like I feel like he unzips me and just goes into my back and puppets me and does stuff, you know.
Some of the things he says are not that great, so I don't love that for you.
Well, man, imagine what it was like for me writing "Lethal My Scars," you know.
Okay, I still haven't done that because you signed it to me like I hope you still like me after this, and I was like, oh no. So I'm a little scared, but that one is recently back out, so maybe I should try.
Some of y'all wrote Scars? One or two? All right.
Sam has,
Sam has, of course. Billy has, yeah.
Really, yeah.
They're the two twistedest people out there.
I mean, it's worse than the Interstate Love Song one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Or Love
Yeah.
Story. I don't remember. I always get that messed up with the Stone Temple Pilots.
So do I.
Yes.
I think it's Interstate Love Affair, I think. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Read that one, I guess, maybe? I don't know. Maybe you might not come to the next reading, but we'll see. Okay. One of your books, just any book, doesn't matter, is getting made into a movie, let's say. This is hypothetical, guys. Sorry. So sorry. I didn't lead with that. And you get to pick which one, except you have to play a character. And I personally know how amazing your acting skills are. He's really great at lines.
Yeah.
But you have to play a character. So which movie or which book and which character?
Let me think. Probably Flush Boy, and I would just be a driver coming through the drive-thru, you know?
That's not even a character. That character doesn't even get a credit. That character is just guy in drive-thru. It has to be like a named character.
The only thing I ever want to do in a movie, I don't want to be in a movie, but if I am ever in a movie, I just want to be like the dude in the far background of a bar shooting pool. I can do that for as many takes as we need.
I heard you say that before.
And I'd let my hair down so you couldn't really see who I am. That's how I want it, you know?
Okay, fine. I'm trying to think of like a one of your books that has a character that doesn't really say anything.
Yeah. Well, Lazarus Effect. There's a prisoner in Lazarus Effect who doesn't say anything. I think
He's in a closet.
He's in a cell.
Mm.
Yeah, but he's the main character. Well, the second main character, anyways.
Okay, there you go. Then you just hang out.
Yeah, he's a guy he's like, people really hate him, so they put him in a prison where every time he kills himself, they bring him back to life. And so he's been alive for hundreds of years. He just keeps killing himself over and over, and he can't die.
Look how like gleeful he was when he said that. He's killing himself and he can't die. Okay. Let's scoot this way. No, I'm kidding. What was the most challenging aspect of writing Buffalo Hunter Hunter? Because it doesn't sound like it was at this point.
No, there is one challenging part of it for me. There's a chemistry paragraph in here, and that some of you may have read the ARC. It's different in the ARC than it is in the final copy, I believe.
Never heard anybody call an arc an ARC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never.
Oh, I never heard it called, well, I have heard it called an ARC.
Okay.
I so resist, people call it ARE lately, which doesn't make sense to me, like Advanced Reader Edition.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But also people do it with audio, they say, what, L, like listen?
Audio list LALC,
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
an ALC.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
weird.
guess we do. I don't know.
But the chemistry thing gave me fits. I could not get it right, and finally, and I kept writing people in the chemistry department at CU Boulder to help me. And chemists don't respond to creative writers. Finally, I had to go through layers of other people who knew a chemist, and I finally got a chemist on the line, and then I told him what I wanted, and he disappeared. And so finally I dangled a check out, and I was finally able to get a chemist to help me. I went and met with her for 2 afternoons, I think, and we talked through everything, and she had amazing, great ideas. And she knows like all these equations and coefficients and all this stuff, and I nodded like, yeah, this makes sense, this is good. And then I didn't actually use any of the stuff she had, but her ideas were really good. I think it'd probably be a better novel, but you have to, when you're writing, weigh accuracy against like, I don't know, dramatic intent or purpose, you know, like what works best for the story and what corresponds best to how chemistry really works, you know? And her ideas, she had some really cool ideas for making stuff catch on fire without like gas or anything. But I finally couldn't use any of that. I had to do it in a way that didn't it didn't actually break any laws. I talked my stupid way through it, and she said, she kisses that, that's okay, but it's not as fun as her ways. But she let me, and I'm happy, and she was very, very helpful. That was the hardest part by far.
When you said I dangled a check, I thought you were going to say I dangled like 2 field mice. Because that might have worked too, and cheaper.
Yeah, they're like those bacon wrapped dates. I wrap them most of $1, you know?
Oh, God. All right, so breaking away from Buffalo Hunter for a minute. If you, and this never happens, I'm pretty sure, had a completely free day, like no teaching, no writing, like no deadlines, no obligations whatsoever, what does that look like for you?
If it's summer, I'm out on my mountain bike usually.
You go out, be quiet. You go out in February.
Yeah, go out
okay.
a lot. But otherwise, probably reading books, reading comic books, and playing pool. Those are the things I like to do.
What's your favorite book? Well, actually, you said Victorian Psycho was your favorite book of the year so far.
So far, yeah, I think that is my favorite book of the year so far.
It is really good. If you guys haven't read it,
Yeah.
Virginia Fido. What about last year?
Last year, my novel of the year, I don't remember. That was like
It was not that
forever
long
ago.
I read more books than you, and I remember mine.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. It's on my site, but let me think.
Oh, it is on the island. Didn't even look.
Oh, did Rebecca? Is that the year Rebecca Roanhorse's third book?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite book of the year. Yeah.
That was a good one. It's a great trilogy.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it. Someone help me out.
Mirrored Heavens. That's the second.
Mirrored
one.
Heavens is the
that
second.
and
Or
then-
third.
Oh, it's a third. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Black Star.
Black Sun is
Black
the first.
Sun is the first. Okay, there you go, everyone. All right. How? This is a question I've had in the back burner for a long time. How are you the only contemporary writer alive to not use the phrase "I let out a breath I was holding"? I didn't know I was holding. You're the only one, I swear.
Oh, really? I not.
Do you ever write it in and you have to like go back and pull it out? 'Cause you're like, oh.
No, that's interesting. I had not thought of that.
It's everywhere though.
Really, I'm gonna let out a breath I was holding.
I let out a breath I didn't know I was
Maybe it's
holding.
because my
Every genre.
my character's always smoking, so they're exhales. They have different exhales, you know.
Oh god. Yeah, maybe that must be it.
But I don't smoke. I've never been able to smoke a cigarette. That used to be my party trick in high school. I would always fake smoke. That makes me like 18 times cooler, you know. And I would have a cigarette in my mouth. I'm talking to somebody and accidentally breathe in, and my eyes would get big, and I'd have to run outside so I could throw up.
Cool party trick.
And also, I used to, do that thing that we saw on Happy Days or somewhere, where you roll a pack of cigarettes in your
Gene
sleeve.
Steve.
Yeah, and I do that all the time. I'd always carry around Marlboro Reds, not because I smoked them, but because girls smoked them, and that was a way to talk to girls, you know.
A lot of your stories start or end with that. Like a lot. Worked out. Okay, so there's an Etch film series as well. It's like 3 short little 10-minute videos. It's very fun. And in one of them, it might have been episode 2, you said, to be human is to be scared. So what has scared you so far this weekend?
This weekend.
Is it this? Is it me?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
you.
dang
It was when I checked in for my flight this morning and I saw I have to board the plane at 5:40 in the morning. That was pretty scary.
So you might be on the same flight as me for
Really?
New York.
Yeah, New York. Yeah, that's where
Maybe.
I'm going. Yeah.
Find out.
And so that means I'm like having to leave the house at 3 or something.
Oh yeah, because Boulder is so much further. Well, sucks to be you. I'm not that much closer, let's be honest. Okay, I think I would guess my answer or your answer to this one. What is your favorite of your novels? My guess is The Bird Is Gone.
Oh, the Bird Is Gone is the only one that ever like matched my conception of it. The execution actually matched the conception. Every other one has changes that pop up. The Bird Is Gone, as much as it feels like something that's come together from 6 different novels, it's actually the way I thought of that novel. But
Scary.
yeah, my favorite one.
I didn't think this was the question that was going to stump you.
If my publicist was here, then they'd be like holding up a sign saying Buffalo Hunter, Buffalo Hunter.
Definitely, yeah. Or Killer on the Road.
Yeah,
Killer on the Road,
yeah.
coming July.
Yeah, and I do like Buffalo Hunter a lot. I got to do a lot of things I wanted to do, like use Arthur Bocarn's voice, but maybe Mongrels. I never got past or over Mongrels, really.
That makes sense. I can't believe you like Arthur's voice so much.
Oh, that's my natural like thinking
No,
voice.
not like that part of it, but like my natural thinking voice.
Well, it is. I've got to do it. I've done it twice before. I did it once in the Francis D'Alembert epistolary parts of Leadfeather, and also in this short story Captain's Lament that was on Clark's World. I think it might have been in one of my collections too. But that ridiculous encrusted voice that 80% of the time is just trying to figure out what it's going to say. Like that's how it is in my head. You know?
I just meant that he's kind of a D-bag.
Well, yeah, he's not the yeah.
He doesn't say the nicest things about other people
Oh
all
no,
the time.
no,
Yeah.
no, but he thinks he's being nice.
He does really like cake though, and you
Yeah.
really like sweets, so that tracks.
Yeah, well, I mean, some sweets. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like fancy sweets, but I
Yeah.
like sweet sweets. Yeah.
Honey buns and the
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, I don't want to leave enough time for like audience questions because there's so many of you. But I have a rapid fire round. That doesn't.
Oh, what?
A rapid fire. It's
Oh,
just
I thought
3
you- I
questions.
thought you said rapper.
It's Etsy, everyone. She's here. No, okay, I just have 3. They're silly. So Etsy, our girl Etsy, does she shop on Etsy? Or is that like 2 on the nose?
I think she does, and I think she gets a 15% discount.
Oh. I mean, she might get like a big discount. It's her thing.
Yeah.
I love her name, by the way. Arthur's favorite Little Debbie snack, since we're talking about how much he likes sweets.
Ooh, I don't know Little Debbie stuff. They have those little round brown cupcakes.
I think that's Hostess,
Oh,
but I mean,
okay.
we can go with that. Like Cosmic
Arthur?
Brownie and Swiss Rolls is Little Debbie. I don't know. I don't know the difference.
I don't know that. I'm always scared of stuff. I'm afraid it's going to have like a pudding inside of it, and I'm going to be surprised. So I hate that kind of stuff. Because that's terrible. I bought a pecan log at Buc-ee's the
Look
other
at
day.
this picture on the box.
Well, yeah, I bought a pecan log at Buc-ee's, and I was so happy. I'm like, a whole log of pecans? But then I bit into it, and it had like icing in the middle, and it was like false advertising. This was not what I'm here for.
That does not sound very good, actually.
Oh, but I didn't say his favorite treat. He likes those. I think he would like. He actually has them in here. Those little refried in butter.
Oh yeah, the ash cakes.
Yeah, ash cakes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, that tracks.
Yeah.
And then the last one before audience questions: who has lost more blood, you this year or Good Stab in this book?
Good stuff in this book.
I mean,
think.
probably.
'Cause he
It's close.
Yeah, he can refill. I can't refill it.
Do you actually like give away all the time too?
Oh, I do. That's right.
Yeah, see?
My
So-
best time at the Blood Shack is 4 minutes and 6 seconds for pints, and it's hard to do that because you have to pass the blood pressure thing, so you got to be all calm. But then in the walk from there to the chair, you got to get all excited and do a lot of stuff and make your blood go fast. You know?
You stress me out, man. You know there's a reason that they have you be calm, right? He's just like doing jumping jacks in the hallway down to the like. That is insane, but it's on brand. So, audience questions. Who's got one? Okay, right away, Jean. That's my aunt, everyone.
Why would a recognized, celebrated author use a pseudonym?
Oh, probably because they're publishing in a different genre than their audience is familiar with, or not familiar with, but they're familiar with is associated with that writer. Like Brian Evanson will do books as V.K. Evanson when he's doing like a video game novel or an aliens novel or something. Or if you're Stephen King, then you want to test the waters and see, do people like me or do they like the writing? That's a fun. It's a fun test if it comes out positive. Why else would somebody do it? Oh, I know. I have a friend actually. He's renamed himself twice now. His first book came out, didn't take over the world, and he's like, "That's it, throwing that name away." So he became somebody else, which really made it confusing in my inbox. And then he did another book, and it did all right, but it didn't do the numbers he wanted. So he said, "All right, third time's charm." And so now he's a different dude. You know?
So does this mean you have written my rom-com and it's just under a pseudonym and it flopped?
No, I'm terrified of using a pseudonym myself because I don't know if I'm a good enough person to, like, I wonder if I'm also some other name, if I'm Alan Chambers, which is a random name to me, then do I not care about the Alan Chambers stories? And do I, when my copy editor comes back and says, "You gotta change this comma to that," do I just say, "Whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just Alan Chambers," you know? So I don't wanna do that. I'm scared that I'm weak enough that I might do that, you know?
I honestly think the range of your stuff is so vast anyway, even though it's like all in horror or literary kind of. The shelving is very weird, depending on what story you're in. But
Yeah.
I think you have so much range anyway that no matter what you write, people are going to be like, I'm going to read this.
That's good. Well, you know, I was doing an event with Joe Lansdale back in '02, I think it was, at Conan the Barbarian panel in Austin, Texas. A lot of y'all know Joe's work. I'm sure he's amazing. And at the Q&A period, like, somebody asked him, they said, "Joe, what genre do you write in?" Because he does everything. And he said, I write in the Joe R. Lansdale genre next. And that so impressed me, and I realized that's my career goal. I want to write in my own genre, just where whatever I do is what I do.
You're kind of there. We'll just feed your ego that way, and you'll be fine. More questions?
So we talked about a phrase that you don't use, but are there any phrases in your books that keep coming back up, or maybe even ones that your editor's like, "No, you can't use this again for the fifth time in this book," or whatever?
Yeah, I do. I mean, first I have to sift words out of my own stuff. I'll use "yeah" like 14 times a sentence if you let me. That's just the way I speak, I think, so that's the way I write. I'm bad about "but" and "just" as well, so I have to comb those out myself as well as I can. And also, I used to be worse about "though." I'm getting better with "though," but I still have to be sensitive to that. As far as words, my editor or someone else will have me pull out. Let me think. Yeah, it started in grad school. It started in 1994. I had this image in my head, which I wrote a story, my first like widely published story called Paleogenesis 1971. I had this image that I still haven't lost of two people at 3 a.m. at a huge truck stop, slow dancing to a Johnny Norton song out under the Pump Islands. And something about them, I say the word half-light. They were in the half-light, and that just has never left me. I've never been able to escape the half-light. I always want to put everything in the half-light. And I think what I want is that moment of those two people dancing out there by the gas pump islands, really.
I like that. That's so cute. See, rom-com. Yeah. Yeah, see, like, just talk about that some more. I want that. More questions? Jordan?
What book would you say has been the hardest to read?
Leadfeather, back in '07. That book twisted my mind up, and like that book like ate me as I wrote it, if that makes sense. And I told myself I'm never gonna do anything that complicated again. And I don't think I have. Let me think. No, I haven't done anything as wrapped back on itself as Leadfeather. Since Leadfeather, I'm still kind of gun shy about trying that.
How long did it take you to recover from that?
Let me think. That's it. I never thought about it like that because Leadfeather came out in '07 and my next book was 2010, so 2.5 years maybe. You know?
Okay, yeah, don't do that again. We can't wait that long. I actually was going to read that one this week to prep, but it's too sad. I couldn't do it. So I did it.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh God, me? Yes, you can ask me a
How many
question.
events, even Graham events, have you been to?
I'd have to, it's gotta be like 12? 10?
What was the first one, the Rebecca
The
Rumpers?
first one was Rebecca, yeah.
Up in Fort Collins.
Last June. It's up there. After next week, it'll be,
10 since last June.
yeah. You know this already, okay? You're just bringing it up in front of everyone to like prove a point. Come on. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, everybody, okay? Jeez. More questions for Steven, not me.
Sorry, it's a boring question, y'all. I'm an English teacher. My students are great. I teach high school.
Woo.
They like to write with vibes, and I've really been trying punctuation, and you brought it up. So how do you get your students to see the importance of using punctuation, even just a period?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of hypocritical in the sense that I spent about a year, it's about a year in grad school where I just decided that I graduated past punctuation. I didn't need that anymore. And so every story I turned in was no capitals, no paragraph breaks, just big blocks of text. And I don't think I was even allowing myself proper noun capitalization. I was stripping away everything I could. And I must have been so annoying to my professors, but I wouldn't trade that for anything, because doing that for that year taught me things about prose rhythm, which I did not know before. I started to be able to use syntax and word choice and like the syllables of a word to do different types of punctuation where I actually didn't have to drop a comma and stuff. And so it was really an education for me to do that, even though it was hugely annoying for other people to deal with, I'm sure.
Especially your teacher.
Yeah. But the way I make my undergrads follow proper usage is I ding them 5 points every time they miss a direct address comma, every time they mess up dialogue punctuation in any way. There's a lot of ways to mess up dialogue punctuation. Every time they do that, it's 5 points. And I'll have students who I have to give them their story back, and it's a pretty good story, but sad to say they got negative 40 points for that story.
You're so mean.
Well, you got to get it right, you know. It's no choice. It's like the very, very first part of writing is communication. In communication, if it's not clear, then the reader is gonna walk away. And
So I'm gonna give you credit. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try this week.
You don't even capitalize in your text messages.
no, I don't capitalize in text messages. Emails either. Really.
I'm gonna like tally your points next
Yeah,
time.
yeah, you
and
should.
just give you a score.
Well, I had to turn that off. Like, I had to turn auto capitalization off for some really good reason that I've forgotten, and I just never went back to it.
I was thinking about that, and like if you're just writing kind of stream of consciousness, it would be annoying to have to go back if you were like re-breaking the sentences.
Yeah, like that recursive thing does not help you move forward at all.
Fair. Questions?
In your head, are there any two of your works that could exist in the same world? Like, could
Yeah.
Tully have went to Proof Rock?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. How soon would it be before Jake punched him, right?
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Negative 5 seconds.
Well, actually, Leadfeather and Buffalo Hunter share a character. Good Indians kind of starts in Mapping the Interior, actually, and Good Indians share some stuff with Buffalo Hunter, and all the way back to my very first novel, The Faster Red Road, there's a family name in there, Trigo, and I think the P's, P-E-A-S-E, I think they're in there as well, and they've appeared in a lot of my books. And so to me, a lot of these books are in the same world. It's not like a Faulkner, Yakima County. It's not that kind of tightly, or it's not like Louise Erdrich's her novels either. It's not, you can't necessarily make a family tree. And the reason you can't is because I despise having to do that. Like I did growing up in Texas, a novel in 2012, I think, and the copy editor told me, he said, he came back, or he or she, I don't forget, and said, your generations are all messed up. It was like a generational novel, a family, and they said this person who's an aunt here is a second cousin there, and then they're a mom here, and that just fuzzed my brain out, so I had to go ride my bike for a while. And I said, how do you want it to be? Just tell me how you want it to be. And he said, they can't be that person's mom because they're also their sister or something like that. And I was like, do people care about that? And he said, yes, people care about that. And I don't care about that whatsoever. I care about how something feels. I don't care about where you can draw lines between it. And so that's why I'm never going to do it tightly enough where you can like make a family tree or push a domino over and make it fall over in the next book, that kind of stuff. But they will kind of draw from the same well of story, if that makes sense. A lot of them do, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Leadfeather and Buffalo Hunter are pretty closely tied here.
Yeah.
More?
So, one of my other favorite horror authors is Junji Ito, the manga author. And one thing I really adore about him is the way he explains his inspirations. Like, I thought about what it would be like to be a mosquito, or wouldn't it be weird if fish had legs? Are there any inspirations to your novels that you could describe like that?
Yeah, probably most of them. Most of my stories start with those type of what ifs. Let me think. I mean, Buffalo Hunter. What if I was a vampire? What would I do with it? And it's obvious. I'd go kill all the Buffalo Hunters I could. You know. But yeah, that's pretty much where all my books start. I mean, it's often a misheard thing, but that becomes a what if immediately. That I don't really know how else to start a novel than that, really.
At the laundromat in line, right?
Yeah. Well, not in line. Yeah, but
Or
anyways.
in
Yeah.
waiting for your clothes is what it was.
Yeah. Well, she's talking about, I wrote The Attack of the 50-Foot Indian, standing up at a laundromat in California, but it's got a story about it, or with it. I stood there and I wrote it, and I had to have my hands all high because the counters were not the right height, and I had a pocket full of quarters, and I had to wash like one load of clothes, and I had enough quarters for that, and I got them all out and put them in a different machine, put all my last quarters in, hit the button, and water came down on my clothes. And I was like, oh no, and the door would not open no matter how hard I pulled, and I ran and found the attendant, and I said, what's going on here? And she said, well, you put your clothes in a different washer. And I said, can I get credit? I need to dry these clothes. And she said, no, you can't get credit, you're stupid. It didn't look the same. It was like a different model, you know?
He pressed the wash button and was like, oh no!
But I had to have dry clothes for that night, and I didn't have any more quarters, and so I had a rental car, and I brought my wet clothes out to my rental car, and I rolled all the windows down, and I put them on the windows and rolled the windows up, and I drove round and around town. They got like mostly dry.
Didn't you have Nancy on the phone during that too?
Probably, yeah. I was asking her what to do.
Also
Well, I called her before I went and found the attendant, because my wife can solve everything, but she said if there's water, then it's in the washer. You know?
Gosh, she's smart.
But it looks so different. It looks like it's completely like a second stage. You know?
I actually bet it looked probably really similar to that first machine.
Yeah.
But okay. It's a great visual, by the way. Okay, 2 more questions.
You talked about writing to music playlists. Did you have one for Buffalo Hunter?
I did. Yeah, the first song is Ozzy. Let's see, which one is it?
Crazy Train.
Yeah, Crazy Train. I forget the rest of them. I've got them. I can read you some of them if I can possibly pull this up.
You weren't joking about asking me questions about the book, huh?
Yeah, no. I'll read you like the first 10 here.
Perfect. Also, we were listening very, very quietly to Steven's signing playlist.
Oh, we were.
got here.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, here it is. It might play when I do it wrong. Yeah, Crazy Train, then Bodies by Drowning Pool, Holding Out for a Hero, Bonnie Tyler.
Nice.
Prince, 1999, No Man's Land, Bob Seger. Trudy, Charlie Daniels Band. Used to Be Young, Miley Cyrus. Journey, Faithfully.
There was
The-
Taylor on that.
The
signing
record,
playlist.
the record company, Off the Ground, Little River Band, Cool Change. I have to listen to songs that make my heart bigger when I write, you know, and especially the Little River Bands. That just makes my heart so big it won't fit in my chest hardly, you know, and that's what all my playlists are for my novels. They just make my heart bigger, and I can write from that space, you know. There was a whole lot more Meatloaf on my playlist, and I told myself, you're going to use up all your Meatloaf, and so I try to put less, you know.
Love Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Also, the Meatloaf covers in the
Yeah,
80s.
oh, they're the best.
Bat Out of
Yeah.
Hell, probably
Yeah.
my favorite of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and I think that when I think of the albums I've listened to the most times in my life, Bat Out of Hell is probably the most times in my life.
Fantastic album, everyone. It's before some of y'all's time. It's actually probably before my time. That's fine. One more. Sorry, up first.
Is there a book, either nonfiction or fiction, that you would recommend to your readers that has sort of influenced your way of storytelling?
Oh yeah, that's tricky. There's so many actually. If I have to limit it to just one, I might say Speaker for the Dead, Orson Scott Card. You know, that novel makes my heart bigger when I read it. Orson Scott Card himself makes my heart tiny and shriveled. But his books I think are fairly amazing. And that one of all his books that I've read just blows me away. The Piggies and Jane, oh, that book. I'll never get enough of that book.
I thought you might have said Lonesome Dove.
No, Lonesome Dove is definitely up there for sure. You got Call and Gus, they have the best relationship of any characters that I can think of, actually.
Probably. I have to reread it. All right. I think that's all. I lost Kat. She's somewhere. There she is. We do have our lovely buffalo, though, to give away to someone. So, if you check under your, I actually don't know where it is because Kat hit it, but it's not ripped. So that's why Kat hit it.
Oh, is it under a chair?
It's under. Well, there's a little like a piece of paper under your chair that says you win.
Oh. It's not a car, though.
And now we leave while they're all distracted. Oh, she got it! Enjoy.
He makes noise.
I just.
Well, the button. Is it a button?
No!
It's like a button.
No, it's a tag. Oh, what noise would you make? Can you make the
No, I
noise
can't
for me,
make the
please?
noise.
You just need to do that because I'm recording it. Yeah, that's fine. That's fair. All right. So, signing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Good job.